Hey you, I'm Anissa. Welcome to Create to Liberate. In today's episode, we're going to talk about getting grounded after ego death. In our last episode, we talked about starting over. And in this starting over that we experience, sometimes we're starting over because we lose some identity in our life, whether it's a job title, a relationship title, a identification with something externally from us. And for many of us, we're going through a level of spiritual awakening. We're going through a level of ego death in those transitions. And sometimes that's birthed from an internal place. So I went through a Kundalini awakening. I will share more on this experience and I have in past videos and episodes. So definitely look back on those. But when we go through these periods of transformation, we are sinking back into a place of grounding that's necessary for us to move forward and be in the present moment, really get in touch with our human self and our senses and pull ourselves back into here and now. So, this topic is deeply relevant for those who are feeling a level of dysregulation on their nervous system level. They're feeling uprootedness and anxiety. You're feeling stressed and unease. You're feeling a level of existential questioning around this human existence, and you're really needing to center yourself. You're really needing to come back to be able to complete projects that you have going on, to be able to nurture relationships that are pre-existing, to continue living life and moving forward despite this major shakeup that took place. If any of this resonates with you, then stick around for more. I'm going to be sharing wisdom reflections, things from my lived experience, as I believe we are all each other's mirrors. We provide a mirror to each other to be able to see ourselves more clearly and hopefully empower each other. If there's things that resonate with you from this, wonderful. Take what you need and leave the rest. As always, your support means so much. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, leave a comment if anything resonates with you. If you're listening on audio, a review helps this podcast grow and reach more people. Please share some love. So, before we dive into getting grounded, first we'll cover what an ego death is, really that shift in experience, the role in our nervous system in adapting to these changes, grounding techniques to anchor yourself during these times for more presence, and embracing this new you and what it means moving forward after the ego dies. What is life looking like? Are we fully disconnected? First, what is an ego death? What is this shift in perception? As I mentioned in our intro, maybe you experience an ego death because of the loss of something externally to you, a title of a relationship, a job, an identifier that felt very important to you. And with the absence of it, you question who you are, who your true self is. I, on a personal note, experienced this most hugely during my Kundalini awakening with the dissolving of the ego self, with the dissolving of who this Anissa human was. And that's been an ongoing process. It's a never ending process. So, those who are on the ascension, spiritual awakening journey, and if you're tuning into this, you're likely those who are experiencing this will continually be shifted into this place of questioning what is true self versus what is egoic, what is something that's temporarily in our lives that we shouldn't attach meaning and identification with. The beauty of the dissolving of this identification with the self, with the small particle self, is that you get to know yourself as also the wave, also your energetic body, also everything, everyone. Oneness, consciousness, unity, consciousness. You get to experience a more expanded, expressed version of yourself. You get to feel a deep level of connection that we always felt when we were little babies and born, and we lost through conditioning, through visually the way that we see the world as separate forms makes us think that we are ultimately separate, but we are all interconnected. However, during your ego death, it doesn't feel harmonious and blissful immediately. When you're going through an ego death, you feel an emptiness. You might feel deeply lost. You might feel deeply stuck. You might feel deeply questioning of continuing to live. You might feel a level of deep emptiness and loneliness and separateness. You might flow to the other extreme of not feeling the oneness and the unity, but feeling deeply disconnected. During these periods of ego death, a lot of people isolate. That's a period of hermiting often. That's a period of disconnecting with friendships and relationships and the things that are not supporting us. So in that previous episode that I mentioned, we talked about starting over. That's a natural inflection point to kind of go inward into our internal world before we enter that rebirth. We are in that cocoon period before we become the butterfly. And so a lot of the ego death is thought before it's really settling into the quiet place within ourselves. And then from that place, we can begin again. But it is a difficult and painful process most often. But the upside of the ego death is that transformation. Ultimately, as you transform, then you begin to get a new opportunity to begin again in this world. You get to align with your values, align with your highest version of self, align with your more truer, more expansive version of self that you would be if you had no fear or less fear and you chose more often from a place of love. However, though we consciously know that we want to move forward in these ways and we want to start again, and we exited this ego death period perhaps, we might still feel the stuckness, the lostness, the confusion. To get grounded is the next ultimate step to really feel the earth beneath us and restart those things that you were building or begin new things that are more in alignment with what you want to share into the world. Create to liberate, a lot of the meaning and purpose of you tuning into this is also because you're a creator. You are a person who is a creatrix in this world, who's going to bring forward a lot of things that open hearts and minds and allow people this level of liberation and expression and an inspiration and empowerment, which is so beautiful, but also for you to be an actual living embodiment of the things that you want other people to experience is hugely important. We are all interconnected, therefore the energy and the vibration that you imbue into the things that you create really matters. Let's get into grounding techniques to actually allow you to move forward in this present. When you're feeling ungrounded, lost, confused, you truly need to get grounded, really need to connect with the earth, with our senses. Adopting sensory exercises really is helpful. Even waking up in the morning, putting your feet to the earth and really feeling your toes touching the earth. Really taking moments of pause in every single day, tuning into your senses, taste, touch, smell. So mindfulness practices that are really supportive for grounding are those that connect you with the here and now. And this is a time to reconnect with what's physically in front of us. What can you see? What can you hear? What can you taste? What can you touch? What things can you appreciate and show more gratitude to? So rituals such as before eating a meal, tuning into the colors of that food, actually saying words of affirmation and gratitude for the meal that you're about to consume. All these moments of anchoring can appear in life's many practices, whether you're about to pull out your car and just bless your car. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for the security, so that you don't feel like a frantic driver going about your life. And so, as many grounding rituals and sacred moments that you can integrate into your every single day, the better. Doing body scans is hugely helpful as far as a sensory technique of going through the top of the head to the bottom of our feet and really recognize what do we feel in each part of our body, what is being communicated to us through our body, can help in grounding us. So for calming and grounding, also tuning into your breath. This is super accessible. We all breathe every single day, but many of us don't pay attention to how we're breathing. If you're feeling ungrounded, it's likely you're taking short breaths. You're feeling anxiety, you might be panting more than you realize through the day. How can you elongate your breath? Spending time in the morning in your morning rituals and sadhana and doing breath work can be hugely helpful, focusing on box breath, where it's 4 counts of breathing in, 4 counts holding that breath, 4 counts releasing, and then another hold at the end, and allowing yourself to have these moments of elongated exhales particularly can be helpful. So that might be a 4 count in breath and a 6 count out breath. Figuring out what really works for you and really anchoring in your breath in more moments throughout the day as well. I find it deeply grounding to spend time with nature, going to trees particularly and spending time co-regulating with trees and feeling yourself sinking your deep roots into the earth when you're against a tree and trying to embody the essence of trees, which are very highly evolved as far as consciousness, reaching into the air very high, but also deeply anchored below. That's what supports them. And you too are like a tree that needs deep anchoring into this earth, into all that holds you down, so that you can continue to reach high, be expansive, be expressed in this life. As I was going through my Kundalini awakening, I found it helpful to move from a plant-based diet to actually consuming some meat. It was valuable for me to send deep gratitude to the meat, but also consume non-plant protein as a grounding force. And those who are on more advanced spiritual awakening paths might need to also eat meat. You have to listen to your body and your intuition as to what you're being guided towards. What works for me is not necessarily going to work for you. Journaling is a huge practice for those going through transformation as a place for reflection, analyzing the things that are arising within you. Maybe there's messages that are coming through that are really important for you to tune into. But rather than ruminating on thinking about them nonstop, in writing them down, you're able to capture them and revisit this or analyze and explore it in some writing and let it go. So, how can you integrate some practices that don't keep you in a constant loophole of thought and allow you to express, allow you to transmute some of that energy into something creative? Maybe there's another medium that you like to pick up that allows you a creative release, an energetic release. Move to those activities. Maybe it's singing for you, maybe it's dancing for you. Figure it out. Regardless of if it's a physical thing or it's very sedentary, somatic practices are hugely important for grounding. So yoga is a huge somatic practice for grounding depending on the asana. So there's grounding energy like a yin yoga or hatha yoga slowed down. Things that allow you to feel in connection with your breath as you're moving through asanas and postures is helpful, and also things that are more to the earth, more grounded. So child's pose is a grounded posture, for instance, versus doing acro yoga, for instance. Grounding can also look like finding spiritual community. It might be supportive for you to have a routine of weekly connection with other human people who are going through the same level of ego death or spiritual aridity or transformation, so that you know that you're not alone, so you know that your experiences, even if they feel very far out, are not wild. They're part of the human experience, even if they're not something that most people commonly experience. I found it really helpful to find Brent Spirit talking about Kundalini awakening and fostering his community on YouTube and Zoom. I found attending Agape Spiritual Center here in Los Angeles to be really nice, to find a spiritual leader, Michael Beckwith, who speaks very regularly on oneness consciousness, unity consciousness, that we're all connected to source and that we're here to awaken and support each other. I think that language being more of the common norm, helpful in me not feeling like an alien and me feeling like one of many people doing this on this planet at this time, and deep gratitude for that. I found it very grounding to do things that I would normally do. So when you go into that ego death period and isolation and disconnection, what you often do is cut yourself off from the things that made you feel normal. And so there's powerful practice in revisiting those things that are fully normie type things. So it might be going to the gym, it might be going to the grocery store and getting your same old staples, it might be reconnecting with friends from childhood. It might be making sure that your physical home space feels like a sanctuary, feels like a really grounded place and space to be that has all of your needs. It might be revisiting work that makes you feel more purposeful. So many of us go through this death, and despite how you might feel, you're more in a state of your truth. And you, by doing absolutely anything, the energy that you transmit to other people just by being you is so powerful. And know that that power exists within you. You don't necessarily need to have it validated externally anymore. Know that you revisiting the things that you used to do is a grounding ritual. And so there's nothing shameful about feeling, oh, I've spiritually awakened and now I'm doing the same old things. Yes, you are, but you're a new you. And it's okay to go through these cycles of not having our progress externally validated, but just knowing it internally. Which leads me to the topic of compassion and embracing this new you. This period of spiritual death is very ungrounding. It makes your parasympathetic nervous system enter fight or flight, and to be in that state ongoingly is tiring, adrenally fatigued, tiring to your physical body. And so really being compassionate to yourself, during this time of transitioning into a fuller, more healed version of yourself with compassion. By you coming to terms with that, more people will also be in acceptance of you over time, though that might not come instantly. It might help you to actually write down what are your new belief systems, values, things that are going to anchor you in this chapter going ahead. Maybe you can come up with an affirmation that helps you move through the world. Mine is create to liberate. So everything that I do creatively, I really want to support people's expansion, expression, liberation, feeling of freeness in the world, deconditioning from any limiting beliefs, any societally based constructs that are not supporting their well being and moving forward. That is deeply important and purposeful for me. You figure out what it is for you. And living in the present is hugely important when it comes to developing self compassion. So, it would be amazing to be recognized as this enlightened being or accomplish all these external dreams that you had from childhood. It might be also awesome to adventure to all of these places and experience more in this life. But gotta say, all of the richness comes from the appreciation and the gratitude for here and now. It tends to always come back to this. And so, compassion for yourself that may not feel a fiery burning for all of the external stuff, because in the true knowing of this human experience, in that ego death, you come back to a strong truth that here in the present you can experience deep love, that here in the present you can have access to all of the feelings that you might have chased externally, that here in the present you're deeply lovable, deeply worthy, deeply abundant. By you being here, being able to breathe in and out, to be in a vital body is just game changing. And I hope that's the case for you. I hope that you can know that your well being is high priority. How you love and give it and receive it is high priority. These really simple things are so high priority and they're not emphasized enough in mainstream. And so I hope that you receive that here. I hope that you have knowing and ground into that truth. I'm sending you so much love in the week ahead, so much more feeling of grounding, so much more embodiment in the practices and actions that make you feel good here and now. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button on YouTube, subscribe for weekly uploads. And if you're listening on audio, send some love into the review section. It always makes a difference. Appreciate you.